Interviews with the best in their fields, teaching you how to excel in careers that don't require traditional college. You're listening to the College Alternative Podcast. Insider tips and advice, straight from the experts. And now, here is your host, James Christian.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. So today we're going to be talking with Monty Howard. He's the general manager for Frank's Barbershop, which is based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. This barbershop has won America's Best Barbershop for 2011 and 2012. Today, he's going to be talking about what it takes to become a barber and how to get employed by some of these awesome barbershops that are, popping up all over the United States. So enjoy the show, and thanks for checking us out, guys. Later. So hello and welcome to the College Alternative Podcast. So today we have with us Monty Howard, and you're the general manager for the Visage Group, which is based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. But specifically, we're going to be talking about barbershops today. And you're the general manager for Frank's Barbershop, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we have 4 or 5 different brands in our town, but Frank's is one of them, and it's the newest and most popular for sure.
Nice. Well, how are you doing today, Monty?
I'm doing pretty good, James. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good, man. I'm glad we got that audio working there. We had a little bit of technical problems, but we were able to get things going here. So you're the general manager here, and how did you get involved with Visage Group and Frank's Barbershop?
Well, I got what I thought was my dream job out of college. I was working for a marketing firm here in Knoxville. Was very fortunate and was checking into the office every day, high-rise building, dressing nice, all the things I thought I wanted to do, but kind of hated my job. And at that time, one of my clients was Frank and Belinda Gambuza, who owned the Visage Group and Frank's Barbershop. And we got to talking. They were growing. I was looking for something different. I made the transition over. That's been almost 17 years now. And we just continue to grow and added the barbershop about 6 years ago. So that's how my journey's come to be.
Nice. Okay, so Frank's Barbershop has only been in existence for 6 years, you said?
That's correct. Yeah, we opened in 2010.
Wow. Okay, and I have noticed, and so I've been to Frank's Barbershop. My brother lives out in Knoxville, Tennessee, and so whenever I go out there, I make sure to stop by your shop. I let my hair grow out specifically so I can get a cut over there. But you guys have already won prestigious awards for the barbershop, correct?
Yeah, we were very fortunate. I think one of our vendors actually nominated us the first year we were open for a contest for best barbershop in America. It was on about.com, and we got some votes and ended up winning. And so the first year we were open, we won best barbershop in America. Won it 2 years after that. We've been featured in Details magazine. We were named one of the top barbershops in America by Playboy magazine. Now, none of us actually saw that. It happened to be one of our friends who read the magazine and told us that we were in there. You know how that goes, right? But yeah, we've been blessed with some great notoriety in a short amount of time.
Well, that's actually really awesome. That right out of the gate, you are already getting recommended by some of your clients as being a great barbershop. That's pretty impressive to get clientele like that.
Yeah. Thank you. We have a great clientele for sure.
Awesome. So I've been noticing here too, especially within the last few years, that barbershops have really grown exponentially. It just seems like guys are loving the option of not having to go to a hair salon. But why do you think barbershops have seen such a big resurgence, I guess?
Well, it's interesting. Frank cuts hair in our hair salon, and he has a lot of guy friends, and some of them are clients, and they always told him, "Hey, Frank, I saw the person you recommended the other day. I came in, loved my haircut. I just kind of hated feeling like I was going to my wife's salon to get it." And he heard that enough times. He said, "You know what? There's probably a niche out there who care about grooming, who care about what they look like. They just don't want to feel like they're going to their wife's salon to get that." And I think that's what we're seeing is what's interesting, our hair salon still gets Cool Joe, but the barbershop gets average Joe, and it's just the everyday pickup driving kind of guy who really cares, but maybe doesn't want everybody to know that. And so we hit a niche in our market area, and I think it's happening all over the country, really, as you said, where guys are taking a step back. And what's interesting is it used to be that way more so than it has been in recent years, where guys took time to groom, whether it was shaving, whether it was a great haircut, whether it was styling, whether it was clothes or fashion in general. And I think that's finally coming back around in a more modern way. So, I mean, we say we got classic barbering styles and modern haircuts at Frank.
Yeah, and I guess most guys, I think, feel maybe slightly uncomfortable going to a hair salon, I guess. Or, in other terms, probably going to a spa, I guess, getting a massage or a facial or whatever, what have you. But if they're able to go into a nice barbershop with hardwood floors and all the amenities that you guys have, I think it makes it a lot more comfortable to be able to relax and hang out and get something a little bit special for themselves.
Special, yeah. Well, it'd kind of be like if you went into a clothing store and you saw that it was predominantly women's clothing, and in the back they had one rack that had some really cool clothes on it, but that was the only rack of men's clothes in the whole shop. You probably wouldn't feel like you belong. And I think that's what most people want. They want to know wherever they shop, wherever they eat, whoever they hang out with, that they've got a sense of belonging. And that's what we really tried to create at Frank's for this group of guys, is a sense that, you belong here.
Mm-hmm. Now, was there a barbershop equivalent already in Knoxville when Frank decided to start up his own barbershop?
Well, I think that was the thing. There were extremes. There were hair salons that did great men's hair cutting. And then there were, kind of your typical everyday barbershop where the guys come in and they line up and they get, maybe a 10-minute haircut, and there's not a lot of frills or anything to it. It's more of a routine. I'm just going to go through the motions. I got to go get hair removed. Mm-hmm. It's not really about an experience or, or a modern haircut. And so something like what we created really didn't exist before Frank's came along.
Nice. So you did find a niche, and it wasn't occupied, and there wasn't any competition for it. That's actually really impressive that you're able to do that.
It's a great business model to have. Yeah, for sure.
No competition.
If
Excellent.
there's not a need, go out and create a need. Right. So.
Exactly. So you were mentioning before about all the rewards that awards that you guys have gotten in the past here. So what do you feel as though makes Frank's Barbershop so special?
Well, our goal has always been to under-promise but over-deliver. We charge $25 for a haircut, where most salons are, somewhere around $50 for a haircut. You can get a cheaper haircut in town for sure, but we think it's really reasonable. But for what you get for $25, I mean, most our clients will tell us, "Gosh, this is a bargain." You come in and we start you off with a neck and shoulder massage. We've got this thing that kind of looks like a belt sander, because most guys don't like it. Even if it's a pretty girl, or especially though if it's another guy, when they're actually laying hands on them. So we've got this little device that does a nice 2-minute neck and shoulder massage. We use essential oils, and you kind of get to take that in and breathe that in. Then we do your consultation. We do a shampoo before the service, and we put a hot, wet towel on the face so that you're not staring right up into the face of your barber or stylist while you're getting your shampoo, so you can just really lay back and relax and enjoy yourself. And of course, you get a great haircut, and then we shampoo it out afterwards, get rid of all the loose hair, because nobody really wants to wear their haircut out with them and try to shake the loose hairs out of their clothes all day long. So, it's about a 30-minute experience, and that's just what happens in the chair. What really makes it special, I think, sometimes is what's before and after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've actually got your services pulled up here on my screen here, and the prices aren't bad at all, especially for what I experienced there. a great haircut, and like you said before, you can get the straight razor cut and get a good haircut, but those prices aren't bad at all, especially in today's economy here.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's what's made it kind of popular. We didn't come in and say we're going to create this world-class experience and we're going to charge you for it.
Mm-hmm.
We created a world-class experience and we made it reasonable for people to afford. And we've been open 6 years and we've never raised our prices. That may be coming soon. I don't know. You may want to get your next haircut in soon, but yeah, we try to keep it affordable, and that's one price, and we make it simple. Guys are simple. Guys are kind of like their haircut as the same way they are their oil change. When they know it needs to be done and it's time to get it done, they're going to get it done. And they like it simple. Let me get in. Let me enjoy the experience and get out and get on my way. So
yeah, but it should be a good experience too, and you guys definitely offer that. So you were saying before the amenities offered before and after. So what do you guys do for the client aside from just the haircut or the shave?
Well, when we built the space, our designer, the guy that we were working with, we said, what do you see for this space? He said, I want to make it look like Ralph Lauren's library. So you can imagine what that might feel like, rich wood grains, kind of hardwood, like you mentioned, but very comfortable and very sophisticated. So that's kind of the way the space is laid out. And what's interesting is, I'm sure you've seen, we have as much space devoted to just kind of hanging out as we do actual services. So we've got a lounge that's got big comfy chairs and big screen TVs where you can sit and watch the games, or we've got a pool table. We've got an area for darts. We have a little table that we set games up and people can sit and chat or play a game of checkers. What we really strived for was to create a place that guys want to come hang out and, oh, by the way, get a haircut. Mm-hmm. And so we'll see people show up 20 minutes, 30 minutes early for their appointment. And we say, hey, we've got you down for 11 o'clock and it's 10:30. And like, yeah, it's fine. I'm just going to come back here and hang out for a little bit. So,
and they stay all day.
Yeah. And then they stay all day. And at some point we got to say, all right, we need that chair. Move on. But, every guy that comes in, obviously we offer them coffee or water, but what they really like is we have root beer that we serve in a frosted Frank's mug. And that's complimentary with your service. And so all the guys, especially the kids, when dads come in and bring their kids, or moms, we have a lot of moms who bring their kids in there as well. We hand them a root beer and a frosted mug, and they're walking around like they're hot stuff. We say it's kind of like where men act like boys and boys act like men, because the dads come in and like, hey son, you want to come over here and play some pool, or let's go throw some darts or something. You're acting all kind of kiddish. Mm-hmm. And the kids got their root beer and they're walking around like they're hot stuff. So it's definitely a kind of a role reversal, and it's interesting to see.
So talking about amenities, and we're seeing this not only with you guys, but also with a lot of barbershops out there. Some have, arcade games, some give drinks, etc. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing that comfortability level, like you were talking about, that not just amenities, but also that hardwood floor and the smells and the leather chairs and everything like that. But so the amenities are great here, but what's going to be more important? What have you found is more important, or are they the same? The amenities that you guys offer, or the skills of the actual barber cutting hair?
Well, the two go hand in hand for sure. We can make it a beautiful space with all the right amenities, but if the service is not right, if the haircut's not right when the guy walks out, he's not going to come back. Mm-hmm. I think all of those nice extras are what keep guys coming back and maybe waiting. If they can't get in today, you know what, I'll wait till Friday to get my appointment there as opposed to running somewhere else. So I think it's what makes us a clear choice for guys. But if it's not for a quality haircut or a quality shave, that's what they truly come for. And they know that's probably where the magic happens, is because it's both. You can get a great haircut and a great experience at the same time. So, definitely at the end of the day, I think the service is most important, but the experience is what sets us apart.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, though. I think, like you were talking about before, guys are simple, but guys know exactly what they want for the most part, right? And they know what they don't want.
Exactly.
And if that haircut is screwed up, or if it's something that they don't want or never did want in the first place, yeah, they're not going to come. They're not going to come back.
Yeah, and men's haircutting is tough. We place a lot of emphasis in this industry on women's hair, and obviously women care a lot about their hair. It's a huge accessory for them. But men's hair is always so precise. And maybe I shouldn't say always, but most of the time guys wear short cuts, and that requires a lot of precision and technique. And so it's a tough skill to master, which is why it's nice in a barbershop when you come into a barbershop, you get people who are devoted to that, and that's what they do all day long, and they do it really well. So that's kind of one of the, I think, unique and special things about a men's barbershop.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's pretty cool seeing these barbers that are coming out. I mean, they dress very, very well. I mean, their grooming standards are great. I mean, they treat you like a man's man when you come in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they can hold a good conversation with you too. So it's nice just sitting in that chair and talking, and being treated right. That's good. So you were talking before about precision with becoming a barber. Precision cuts. So what kind of training do you need to have in order to become a barber? Do you need to go to a cosmetology school, or are you picking it up at the shop itself?
Well, it's different in different states, but in the state of Tennessee, and in most states for that matter, you do have to go to trade school. So either cosmetology school or a barber school. And I think it's the same in most states where there's one or the other, and that's because you can have a cosmetology license or a barber license. Often the thing that sets those two apart is the training at a barber school is more about clippers. It's more focused on men's hair. They do straight razor shaves, which cosmetologists can't do in most situations. And so it's specific to what guys need. Now, that doesn't mean that a cosmetologist can't do the same. In fact, in our barbershop, we have more people who have cosmetology license than barber license. But the training is the same amount of time. In Tennessee, it's 1,500 hours, which takes you about a year to complete. It can cost anywhere from $10,000 on the low end to $20,000 or $25,000 on the high end for an education like that. But it takes about a year, and that's what it takes to get a license to actually do the work in the state. But we often call that your license to learn, because we feel like that's where the real learning actually begins, is when you get out in the shop, and the training continues from that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're saying that there are almost two different schools. There's cosmetology school and there's barber schools out there, correct?
That's correct.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. And so the majority of your people are getting cosmetology degrees, but I'm assuming, are you starting to see more of a resurgence, or more and more people coming up with barber certifications applying for you guys?
Well, what's interesting is the reason probably more people are getting cosmetology training is because that's where the options are. In our town alone, there's 5 cosmetology schools and 1 barbering school, and that barbering school actually just opened up about 3 years ago. So, and it's a fairly small school. So, I think the resurgence and the demand for men's barber training will, as you say, necessitate more options for barbering schools out there, and we'll probably see more of that coming up. But historically, if you want to cut hair, you go to cosmetology school,
and that's
why there's more of it.
And it just makes a little more practical sense too, because if you get your cosmetology, you can cut men's and women's hair. Then, correct? Yeah,
that's correct. And
okay.
People like people like the option. So you could actually do men's or women's in barber school too. They train you on women's haircutting and barbering school. It's a different kind of haircutting, and it's not conducive to a lot of women's styles or long hair dressing, things like that. So if you want to do women's hair, you typically would go cosmetology route.
Okay. Well, that sounds interesting, though. I mean, in terms of a barbershop or a barber school popping up in your town just 3 years ago. I think you're right. I mean, that demand that we're seeing, that resurgence, is driving the market to open up more schools. That's actually really, really neat to see the market react like that.
Right. Well, what's interesting, it was actually opened by somebody who worked for us, and she probably heard the conversation around. Yeah. Gosh, I wish we could get more barbers with barber licenses. And she said, "Yeah, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. Let me go open up a school." But
that sounds like an interesting niche with no competition in this town.
Right. She said, "Well, I see something here that works." So good for her. I mean, we have a great relationship with her, and we've hired a few of her students already. So we're actually very happy to have that to draw from now.
Nice. So it's almost like a pipeline, or it's always nice to have an instructor that has almost a direct phone call access to you guys, or to a place of employment. That's cool.
Exactly. And a lot of times people who go through school like that start it very young. Many of them will come straight out of high school and go to barber school or cosmetology school without working any other real jobs in the marketplace. And so when you go to interview somebody, the best reference you have is what have they been like in school? What is their attendance? What's their attitude? What's their work like? So that's usually the best reference. That's, really important for us to maintain good relationships with those schools.
Okay. So you're calling the school and you're seeing what their reputation is. So yeah, your reputation begins the moment you step through that school door. Oh.
That's exactly right. It's a year-long interview, basically.
Wow. Okay. Well, that makes sense. But that's awesome that you guys are doing that. And for anybody out there that's considering this, I mean, yeah, your reputation begins for the moment you step through. And I don't know. I mean, reputation precedes you in a lot of cases. So, what kind of certifications do you need to become a barber? What are you looking for? Is it different per state as far as certifications are concerned?
Yeah, it does vary in states, and some states you can apprentice your way to a license instead of going to school. We're seeing less and less of that. More states are going to where you have to go to school to get your license. But either way, the first step is complete whatever the state requires, whether it's cosmetology school or a certain number of apprenticeship hours, and then you get a license in the state in order to do hair. So every state requires a license either from your barber board or your cosmetology board so that you can begin cutting or coloring in a barbershop or a hair salon for that matter. So that's the first step. Our belief is that the next step is to continue your training in a more advanced training program. And we always recommend, and it's what we do at our salons and barbershop, is we have a training program. So once somebody goes through school, gets their license, comes to work for us, they don't start cutting right away. They've got to go through our training before we feel like they're prepared to start accepting clients and giving that great quality haircut and not just the experience.
Okay. So, but that's pretty unique though, that you're investing time into these people. I'm assuming these certifications, it's a particular test that you need to take, a demonstration in front of a board?
That's correct.
Okay.
Once you finish your schooling or your apprenticeship hours, depending on the state, you have to schedule a test, and usually there's a written part of the test, and then there's a practical portion where you demonstrate your skills. Kind of like when you go get your driver's license, you got to do your written, and then you actually got to get behind the wheel of a car. So same kind of idea.
Okay, and hopefully you don't crash into the car in front of you, et cetera.
Or cut somebody's ear off, exactly.
Yeah, which gets into our next question here, which is straight razors.
Right.
Is that a different certification, or does that come kind of prepackaged being able to
Well,
do all that?
yeah, straight razor shaving is something that typically is covered in barbering school, but not in cosmetology school. And again, I'm speaking, I'm very fluent with the laws and the licensing in Tennessee. It's very similar in most states, but I can't guarantee that it's 100% the same in each state. So anybody interested in looking into that would just need to call their cosmetology board or barbering board, which is usually under the health department within their state, and find out what those rules are. But in Tennessee, you have to have a barber's license in order to use that straight razor, because that's where they train you how to do that.
Okay. And it seems like you probably definitely need a lot of training with this, especially working around other guys' necks and things like that, because this is definitely not going to be like, half asleep with your safety razor in the morning, after your shower, and you're just literally just trying to scrape everything off. Some of these, your guys, I'm looking at your shave here with the cold and hot towels, and it's an entire process with straight razor shaves. It's really, really neat what you guys do.
Yeah, thank you. Well, in our shop, I mean, you go over that in school if that's, if you've gone the barbering route, but we take it a step further, and that started with Frank, who actually himself was a barber. He was trained as a barber. He started out his career in a white-tiled New Jersey barbershop, shining shoes when he was 13. So, and then he went on and got his license and got his training there, and so he's actually kind of come full circle. Years ago he would teach classic barbers how to do modern hair cutting, and today we're teaching modern hair cutters how to do classic barbering. And obviously one of those things is shaves, and so he kind of started that process of training our barbers inside the shop, and then they passed that down. So anytime somebody new starts, we put them through several steps to learn what that looks like, because you mentioned you put something that's a sharp piece of metal right up against somebody's throat. You better know what you're doing with it.
Yeah, and the client better feel like you know what you're doing with that thing too.
It takes a steady hand, as they used to say in what was that game? Operation. It takes a steady hand.
Nice. Yes, exactly. Okay, so you're the general manager here, and I don't know if you're kind of help out with the applications or the employment or hiring of barbers at your shop here, but maybe you could talk a little bit about how someone can get employed by a good barbershop like yourselves.
Well, I do actually do most of the interviewing for our service providers. So yeah, and a lot of times somebody asks, what is the one thing that you really look for in a new barber or stylist? And there's three actually. The first thing we look for is somebody who has a great attitude. They're warm, they're friendly, they smile a lot. The second thing is somebody who has a killer attitude. They smile, they're nice, they're happy people. And then the third thing, as you might have figured out by now, is somebody who has an awesome attitude. We can teach you how to cut hair. We can teach you how to shave. We can't teach people how to be nice. So that's the number one thing we look for in somebody. And that's, again, because we have a training program that can teach you all those other things. But I would encourage somebody who's going into the industry, no matter what you do, to find somebody, associate yourself with somebody who either has a training program or is willing to mentor you. If you get your license and you're ready to go to work and you want to cut hair, and some guy says, "Hey, I got a chair, come over here and work with me in the shop. You can have any of my leftovers, whatever," but nobody's really teaching you anything, you get stale and hurry. And it's difficult. I mean, obviously you can learn on your feet, you can learn hands-on, and you will, but it takes you a lot longer to get to that point than if you had somebody who said, "Hey, let me show you how to section this hair off, or how to blend this so there's not a line in it, or how to do a great neckline or, over the ears, things like that, who can teach you those things. So, I'd encourage anybody who's considering this to find somewhere where you can either get in a good training program or somebody who's at least willing to take the time to mentor you, because that'll set you off in a career and not just a job. There's a lot of places where you can get a job.
Well, that also shows a particular level of drive that a lot of people don't seem to really have nowadays either, right? And as an employer, you really want to look for a person with drive, like you were talking about, that killer attitude is concerned, that wants to succeed and be positive about their career. Okay. And so you're talking about mentoring too, and I guess we can kind of work in networking there as well. So it sounds like having a mentor and networking and developing yourself personality-wise is almost more important than the particular name of the school that you go to?
That would be my belief is, you go to school and school is as good as they get. Their primary goal is to prepare you to take the test so that you can get your license and go to work. And at the end of the day, that's what they do. And you can get that pretty much anywhere. So you put in your hours, you learn enough to pass the test, you get your license, then's when the real learning process begins. So that's not to say that there aren't good schools and bad schools, but, at the end of the day, where you choose to start your career once you get your license is really a more important decision than where you're going to spend that 12 months prior to your license.
Okay. And that kind of, runs in the face a little bit in terms of like the person that's typically going to go just to college. I mean, you've got Harvard and you've got community college. The name says something about the actual school, but what you're saying here is it's not necessarily the school. Knock out that certification, learn, but knock out the certification and devote more of your time to proving yourself out in the real world. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's certainly our experience. I mean, in our town, I can say, there are some schools that are better than others, but I don't shy away from hiring somebody from, what would be considered a lower tier school just because that's where they went to school. If they smile, if they're happy, if they got a great attitude, at the end of the day, that's what I need to know is, are they willing to work and do they want to be like us? And if so, we can make the rest of it work.
Okay, cool. Okay, so moving on here to rates and payment and everything like that. So hairstylists, you've got a couple of different choices here. You've got commissions. You rent a workspace from a salon, essentially, and then you pay a flat fee. Is barbering the same way, or is it going to be different for you guys?
No, the same options apply. If you're talking about an old school barbershop, Harry's down the street that's been open for 40 years, typically what Harry's going to do, Harry wants to stand behind the chair and take care of his clients all day long. He doesn't want to get into being an owner. So what he would do is he's got a chair available, maybe somebody just left or something, and he says, you want to come in and take that chair, give me $500 a month, $1,000 a month, and then you can keep everything else you make. That's not necessarily, that's fairly common, I would say, in kind of the old school barbershops. High-end hair salons are more commission oriented because those people are employees and the brand wants to control that. Our barbershop is actually commission based because those people are employees and we're building a brand, and that brand benefits those employees by creating a reputation that gets clients to return. And so we have some expectations of what those employees do. The other option would be an hourly rate. So you go to work somewhere that just pays you an hourly rate. Whether you do 40 haircuts in a day or 5 haircuts in a day, you make the same no matter what. So we pay based on performance.
Okay. And then in terms of the rates are concerned, then you're everybody's getting the same rate, it looks like, as opposed to with, again, hairstylists, the longer you've been in the business, the more you can kind of charge every year or every 5 years. You guys are staying the same as far as your rate is concerned. That the barbershop is determining that.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
When the barbershop feels like it's time to move up the prices, then we'll move everybody up.
Okay. So the barbershop is actually determining that for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then do barbers make, some hairstylists make quite a good paycheck at some of these really, really high-end salons in some of the larger cities out there. So what is the typical salary for a barber? Is it pretty much equivalent to a hairstylist out there?
It kind of depends on the philosophy of the barbershop you're in. I mean, in our shop, we don't have, as you were just mentioning, you don't have those tiered prices where one person charges $25 and another charges $100. When you're up there charging more money, obviously you can make more money, and that's more the model of a hair salon. So stylists, because they're charging more money, often have the potential to max out at more than a typical barber would. But that's not to say that a good barber can't make really good money. In our barbershop, we have clients who probably tip near what they pay, and that is to say that we have barbers who make in tips as much as they make in commission, and they stay busy all day long. So compensation-wise, I mean, I would say, and of course it depends on the market and what you're charging. Obviously, what we make in Tennessee is a lot different than what somebody in New York or San Francisco might. But I'd say 40 to 50 within a couple of years. Is it unreasonable to think that somebody could make six figures barbering? Absolutely not. I think you certainly could.
Okay. And plus, cost of living in Knoxville is going to be totally different from San Francisco, where the median house price now is $1 million.
Exactly.
I think it's kind of crazy, personally, why some people choose to live there. But my God, I don't know how they can do it. But okay. And then I didn't know that about the tips. If you treat your customer right, I guess guys do tip fairly well, I would say. And so that definitely helps with commission and everything like that, and with salary.
Yeah, absolutely. They're willing to. Let's put it that way. And I think that may be the difference in the experience part, because a guy comes in and gets a great haircut, he'll tip. But if he gets a great experience, he'll tip better. So depending upon the type of shop you're associated with or you're in, the more you deliver. I mean, it's like the same difference of going to a fine restaurant. You go to a fine restaurant, your tip's going to be way higher than if you're going to, some interstate discount chain and getting a decent meal, but the experience is not the same. So, salons, barbershops are the same way.
And also, let's say you sell a product like a shampoo or conditioner or some type of a hair product there. Are they getting a particular percentage as well in sales on that, or does the shop take that money?
No, they make a commission on that as well.
Okay.
It's not equal to the service commission, but they usually make anywhere from 10 to up to 20% commission on the products they sell is fairly typical. Okay.
So in terms of barbershop and everything like this, and a lot, you guys have been open and you guys are fairly large, but there are a lot of smaller, maybe 2-3 man barbershops popping up around the United States. Talking about salary and talking about all that stuff. Is barbering a job where you ultimately want to open up your own place in order to feel successful, in order to be successful, or can you do a lot of barbers? Are they really happy working just in a barbershop itself?
I think the history of barbershops are small operations. They're usually one or two or three chairs. And so what you've seen is a lot of independent owners. As we've kind of talked about today with the resurgence of men's expectations and grooming and the new modern barbershop, you'll see more people who are satisfied in that career for the long term. And if you're going to do that, you're going to go rent 500 square feet somewhere and put a couple chairs in it. Anybody could do that. But if you want to open a full-fledged shop that's, 2,500 square feet and has 15 employees or more, now you're becoming something else. Instead of just being a guy who gives great haircuts and stands behind the chair and is a barber, you're now a business owner. And there's a big difference between a business owner and just a great barber. And I think a lot of people want to do that, think that's kind of the next step, and then they get into it and realize that what the expectations are of them completely change, and they kind of lose their passion for it. So
what made them happy cutting hair, and now they're sitting at a desk doing budgetary stuff and legalese and insurance. It's totally different, huh?
Yeah, for sure. And that's not to say that some people don't enjoy that, but if you got into this business because you love the passion, you love working with your hands, you love interacting with clients, and now you may still be doing that, but on top of that, you're sitting at the desk doing paperwork and payroll and taxes and paying bills. And then somewhere in there, maybe have a wife and kids or, a spouse at home that you got to take care of. Where's the time?
Yeah, I've got 30 minutes. I'll in my schedule, I'll see you for 30 minutes and I need to get back to work.
Right.
It's hard. Entrepreneurship is hard, especially when you're balancing a full-time job on top of it too, or trying to start something up. It's, there's a lot of pitfalls, a lot of frustrations and stress that people don't realize. And I think they see you guys too, 6 years in, and you guys already have awards coming in and recognition, and they think, hey, I could do that too. But they're seeing you 6 years in, and then they try to start something up, and it's a month in, and they're not getting as many clients or as much recognition, and they're wondering to themselves, what gives?
Right. We had about 30 years experience in this industry before we opened the barbershop. So it wasn't our first rodeo. It was a little different horse, but not our first rodeo for sure.
So it sounds like if you wanted to open up your own barbershop, definitely get the experience first, and probably in another barbershop to see what the day-to-day operations are. And can somebody volunteer to kind of help out in the back end to see what it's like, or to get experience in terms of the backside of the house there too, not just cutting hair? Is that typical, or is that something that, hey, you're a barber and that's what you do? Or can you volunteer for kind of additional duties?
Yeah, in our operation, what we typically have is somebody who's just an operations person who manages the location. So they deal with appointments and check-ins and check-outs and money and ordering products and keeping the place clean and stocked and all of that. And that's somebody who's not a stylist. And then apart from them, we need somebody who also knows hair and can speak to a client if they're dissatisfied with a haircut and solve those challenges. Or we have 3 or 4 educators on our team that teach the young staff and mentor them. So there are definitely other responsibilities somebody can take on from a creative standpoint that puts them as a team leader, essentially.
Nice. So there's definitely career progression in a barbershop. That's awesome. Yeah, especially if you start getting 10, 15 years in, you definitely want to sort of take on additional roles. That's awesome. Okay, so as far as marketing yourself, why has Frank's been so good, in terming rewards? How have you gotten yourself out there? Have you been using social media a lot, or are you getting print ads? What's been working to get you guys clients?
Well, initially, I think just the fact that it was a little different caught a lot of people's eye and attention, that it was something that didn't really exist. And so it was innately interesting. And so that helped get some media attention, both from local media and eventually national media. But, the other thing we did was barbershops have always been kind of a center of the community. It's where guys go to talk to other guys and talk politics and maybe sports and that's where the community centers around. So when we opened Frank's, we really wanted to make it clear that we were part of this community. So, for instance, one of the things we did was we bought 1,000 baseballs and put our logo on them and gave them to the local youth league and said, give these out at the end of each game as the game ball to the kid who, had the best game. And so everybody wants the game ball, and then they get that game ball and it has Frank's Barbershop logo on it. And, they take it home, they put it up on their shelf, and there's that ball sitting in their house, and the parents are seeing it, and everybody's exciting, and they're posting that on social media. And, it's things like that. We bought, for the same league, we bought popcorn bags and put our logo on them and donated those to the league. So everybody that bought popcorn, and there's, how many kids locally are involved in sports and athletics that are out there playing, and really got our name out in kind of an unconventional way, but let people know that we care and we're here and we're, at the center of this community. So I think that's important.
That's awesome, though. And yeah, that's a really unique twist here, because initially I was thinking, get yourself out on Pinterest, get yourself on Instagram, but it seems like that might almost be too non-community oriented, like you were saying. I guess I forgot that barbershops definitely were a place to hang out. And if you can ingrain yourself in the community like you're doing, it's definitely different than just regular social media where you're just posting pictures just to the world, as opposed to trying to be centric within, I guess, the Knoxville area for you guys. That's really, really neat. That's a really good idea as far as the baseballs were concerned.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of great feedback. We did a bunch of T-shirts too, and it was funny. We just handed them out wherever we could. And it'd be funny, you walk in the grocery store and you're walking around and you see somebody with your shirt on, you're like, hey, like your shirt.
So when you're marketing a barbershop, you need to be with the goal of marketing as a community within the local community versus just pushing it out nationwide almost. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Again, that it's people being part of something. When I go to the barbershop, that's my place. That's my local barbershop. That's where I go and hang out and talk community.
Yeah,
and
maybe avoid politics. I don't know. Get around that pitfall.
Maybe not right now.
Maybe not right now.
Maybe not right now.
Thank God you only just serve root beer, not straight alcohol. You might get go ahead and get some serious arguments going there.
We actually entertained that idea, and then found out in the state of Tennessee you can't serve alcohol in a barbershop, and it makes really good sense actually, because you don't want people falling or bumping around when somebody's got a razor up against somebody else's throat. So
that's true. Very, very true.
That worked out.
Nice. And so your type of clientele, so I'm looking at your services here, and like we were talking about before, the pricing's not bad at all. It's very, very reasonable. But are you seeing the majority come in just for special occasions, kind of just to treat themselves, like a bachelor's party or a birthday? Are you seeing this weekly? Are a lot of clients just weekly or bi-weekly customers here?
The majority of our clients are regular customers. We do some bachelor parties, for classic shaves. Guys just want to come in and get their hair cut together before the big day, and they, because we have the space, they can hang out back there. So it's certainly conducive to that. But the majority of it's the typical guys' routine haircut, and for us, some guys are every 2 weeks, some are every 3. Probably most are once a month. Somewhere in that neighborhood, and then you get the occasional guy who just doesn't like sitting in the chair very long. I'm actually one of those guys. I really, it's funny that I work for a hair organization. I hate getting my hair cut, but it's probably convenient because I wouldn't get it done otherwise. So, you get those guys who occasionally come in once a quarter. So, but what's interesting is when we first opened the barbershop, we were used to women who called ahead and made their appointments, sometimes weeks ahead. And, we opened up the barbershop and we come in some days and there's nobody on the book and you think, gosh, it's going to be a crappy day. But by the end of the day, it's full because, guys are impulsive and they're last minute. So either they'll, call last minute or just walk in and, hey, what do you have available?
So there's always that one guy that says, oh, well, I only have, a couple clients today. And then you guys get swamped with people waiting. You're like busy, huh?
Yeah. It's, it's evolved a little bit over the years now where, if you don't make an appointment ahead of time, then you're probably not getting in today. We're usually somewhere around a week in advance booking. So.
Well, I think this is also different from a woman's haircut too, because sometimes women's haircuts are $60, $80, $100 sometimes for a haircut, and they're booking out in advance, and I think for the pricing and the amenities that you guys offer, the reasonableness here, it doesn't just have to be for a special occasion like I mentioned before. So you don't necessarily have to locate a barbershop in the really, really ritzy part of town, but is location for a barbershop pretty important for you guys or for anybody out there?
Yeah, it's definitely important. One of the lessons we learned when we first opened the barbershop, or we're looking at it, opening a place. We were considering putting one downtown. That's guys work downtown. It's convenient, pop over from the office, things like that. And we actually talked to some people who own another barbershop, kind of like they were our mentors really when we opened up. They had already kind of created what we had, and they said, one of the things we learned is that you don't want to be where people work. You want to be where they live. So you want to be on their way to work and to home and in the community again, as opposed to being where they work, because where they work, at best they got time to run out for lunch and then they go back to work. And then at the end of the day, they're gone. They head out. So, we found a spot that was, really on a side street, but it is an access point to some huge communities behind us. So there's 20,000 people that go up and down the street that we're on, which is real near another street that has probably 120,000 people that pass by there every day. So we're close, but still in the neighborhood.
Okay, nice. And that totally makes sense to me, in terms of, a guy maybe has time to run out for 30 minutes and he's thinking about food. He's not thinking about a haircut, as opposed to, hey, Saturday morning, I'm going to take myself and my son, and kind of make a morning of it and get our haircuts.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, constantly, it seems like we're constantly coming back to that whole community aspect, being part of the community and having guys take ownership in your company a little bit, and having pride. And, hey, I went to Frank's. Oh, you went to Frank's too? Oh, that's awesome. That's really, really, that's totally true.
It's a great compliment when you're out and you see somebody or hear somebody saying that.
Yeah. And then they're like, hey, can you get me in on Saturday? And you're like, of course, I can hook you up.
Exactly.
So you're talking a little bit about your apprentice program here. Can you talk a little bit more about that? So a person gets hired. Is it a set amount of weeks? Do you get hooked up with an educator like you were talking about?
Yeah, we do classes once a week, and they come in for a couple hours and do a couple haircuts on Wednesday morning. There's not really a slow time, but if there would be a slower time, that's usually when it is. So one of our stylists will mark time off of their schedule, and they'll work with the new barbers and train them on, from the very fundamental things like how to do a neckline. What I consider as a natural neckline and what you consider as a natural neckline may be two different things. And so how do we accomplish that? How do we achieve that? And of course, creating that for you or for me could be completely different. So there's a lot to learn about just the detailed things. It's interesting, having salon experience and barbershop experience. In the barbershop, the majority of the haircut is spent, from the front of one ear to the front of the other ear, so sides and back, and very little time spent on the top. Whereas in the hair salon, very little time spent on the back and the sides, and most of it's spent on the top, that creating that shape, that texture, whatever. And so it's a different kind of haircut, and getting people to understand that, especially if they've had a cosmetology background, takes a little time. So it's about 6 months, the training we offer, and that's 6 months a week of classes. And then at the end of that, we have them it's about 20 or 25 guys they've got to bring in on their own. So it kind of teaches them how to recruit their business as well, and just do haircuts one after the other for the practice, for the repetition, and so that we know where they stand before we turn them loose.
Okay. And they're bringing them, you mentioned they're bringing them on their own. So a barber at your shop and regular barbers, they are recruiting and marketing themselves to clients. And so what's kind of some of the better ways to be able to do that? To constantly get new repeat customers and new customers?
Well, it starts with the very simplest form, just using your name. What's really unfortunate, drives me crazy, is when I see somebody out and they say, "Hey, I just came to your shop and I got a great haircut." And I say, well, who did it? And they say, "Oh, that guy, he's got kind of short hair and tall and whatever." You didn't get his name, you don't know his name. So use your name. Make sure that people know your name. Wear a name tag. Hand out a business card. It's may seem cliche, but when you at least give somebody a card, they know what your name is. So making sure that you get your name out there, but using those cards, even when you're out every day in the community, you go to the restaurant, and the guy that your server comes up to the table, start up a conversation about what you do. "Hey, I love your hair. Who cuts it?" Or, "Hey, I'm a stylist over at Frank's Barbershop. I'd love to cut your hair sometime." Hand them a card. You got to look for opportunities every day, wherever you are, church, at community functions, things like that, to really promote yourself. People should know what it is that you do, and that starts with having a great haircut yourself. If you're going to do haircuts and charge people good money to get a haircut, you better, by gosh, have a good haircut. And that's a great way for people to strike up a conversation. What if they come up to you and say, "Hey, I love your hair. Who cuts it?" And you say, "Well, I'm actually a barber over at Frank's Barbershop. Come see me. I can take care of you."
Yeah, so you got to look the part. You can't be a slob, right? Because if you're a slob, they're going to think that you're going to do a bad haircut, because if you don't care about yourself, why are you going to care about them?
Yeah. Well, there's an old story or kind of a question. You go into a town, and there's two barbers, and one of them has a ratty haircut and one of them has a great haircut. Which one do you go to? Well, the joke is you go to the guy who has the ratty haircut, because chances are he gave the other guy the good haircut.
Nice.
Now,
yes.
That may be true if you're in a town with only two
With
barbers.
But, yeah.
So, you need to look the part and represent yourself for sure.
But I think we were talking about before about this resurgence of barbers. I think guys are more in tune with that nowadays, and I think they're looking for a barbershop. They know that they're out there. Maybe they just don't know exactly where, but if they find a barbershop, they're going to go there. And if they find a good barber, they're gonna stay with that barber versus, that like we were talking about really at the beginning, that kind of semi-uncomfortable feeling of sitting by yourself, surrounded by 10 other women waiting to get their haircuts, versus, especially at your shop, playing pool or watching a sports game, and and just feeling more comfortable, essentially. So
yeah.
It sounds like marketing yourself as a barber is definitely a lot easier these days, and guys are looking out for that. That's awesome. So are you getting more men applying for your position now? And hairstyling is typically thought to be more women going into it, but are you seeing more and more men getting into this career field?
Well, so again, knowing both sides of it, I can tell you the concentration of male stylists at the barbershop compared to at the salon is much higher. It's probably 40 to 50% of our employees are men at the barbershop. But obviously that means the other 50 to 60 are women. So we still have a lot of women who do that service. Whereas at the salon, it may be 15 to 20% of them are guys.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't, I think a lot of times people think you have to be a guy to know how to cut guys' hair. And that's obviously not true. It's a technique. It's a skill. It's something anybody can learn.
Okay. So yeah, men can do it. Women can do it. Yeah, I was just wondering specifically, barbering now with resurgence, it's definitely on everybody's radar. But before, if you're going to cut hair, maybe guys weren't thinking as much about making that a career. They were thinking, hey, women typically go into this career field. Guys don't as much. I was just wondering now with it becoming more of a popular trend, if guys are reevaluating that a little bit more and saying, hey, I can do this too. This is more, I guess, socially acceptable to cut hair, and I can do a good job and have fun at it and be in a great environment. Yeah.
The barbershop is typically a guy's guy kind of place.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people that work there are, the man's man. And it is probably less offensive or less uncomfortable for a guy to get into that field because, he's going to talk to other guys. They're going to sit there and they're going to chat about sports. They're going to work in a space that's kind of made for men. And I do think you will see more guys who are willing to get into that as the environment in the barbershop and the options and the experience changes, and you see more shops like Frank's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so we were talking about before, with all the amenities you guys have, I'm sure you really thought out what you guys were going to put into your shop. The big TVs, the hardwood floors. But how do you really create a good atmosphere? And I guess we'll finish this conversation off with this question. But how do you guys create a good atmosphere that's appealing to guys? What have you found that guys are really attracted to?
The sense itself of the space, it's welcoming, it's masculine. Obviously that's where it starts. Things that guys expect probably more so than women are timeliness. A guy doesn't want to come in and, for his appointment and have to wait 30 minutes for you to get started. So making sure that we stay on time and we run on time. And again, we make it as simple as possible. We have a cordless credit card machine in our barbershop, so we can actually go to the guy's station and check him out so that when he's done with his haircut, he's out the door. So things like that, to make it as easy as possible. So it's quick, it's convenient, but it's also quality. And if I want to spend more time there, I can do that. But if I don't, I'm in and out, and I don't have to.
It's kind of like shopping for guys, that graphic of a woman shopping versus a guy shopping. The guy goes in and out, and a woman goes to every shop in the mall, But I think you're right. I mean, if a guy wants to stay there and hang out and talk, and he wants to do that, but if a guy doesn't want to be there, yeah, that's kind of interesting as far as if he doesn't want to be there or longer, just make it simple for him to get in, get the great haircut, and get on with his day. Do what he needs to do for the rest of the day. I wouldn't have thought that versus just, throwing some hardwood floors, and throw up all the flat panel TVs. I mean, you got to think the whole of what a guy wants with the experience. Okay. Well, Monty, thank you very much for talking with me here. If anybody wants to contact you guys or find Frank's, how do they do that?
You can look us up online at franksbarbershop.net, or obviously also on Facebook and Instagram. Just check us out, and it has the phone number there that'll get you right to us. If anybody's interested in applying, there's a place you can apply on the website as well. So,
all right.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no worries. Well, thanks very much for coming on, and for all you listeners out there, barbering is definitely coming back, and I think it was always a great trade, but it's definitely, one of those things where it's on people's radar, and I think you can make a really good career out of it. So, again, thanks, Monty, really, for taking the time to talk with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So if you liked what you heard today, guys, click that like link below, subscribe to the channel, check us out on collegealternative.net. Next week, we're going to be talking with a gentleman who is a pipe welder and fitter for Pacific Gas and Electric out in California. This guy makes some serious cash, and he'll show you and tell you how to get on with some of these gas companies. So until next week, stay safe, guys. Later.